Today, CheckPoint, now being broadcast in a way that's different, but you probably won't notice. It's mostly for my benefit.
Yeah. Let's see if anyone can tell. Paul is louder and slightly bigger. Well, that just means he's sitting a little closer to the camera.
Like, I can get closer, too.
Don't.
Get real close for CheckPoint.
Oof.
Hello! Hey, everybody.
I don't know how to sit anymore.
Foxmar says Graham looks clearer.
Yeah.
That ideally, Graham and Beige should look possibly a little clearer, or at least consistently clearer. I should look about the same because I'm local for the recording.
I had 5 minutes to go live and completely forgot my window was open.
Paul is a bit louder, actually. Graham is fading into his background. What?
Really?
I'm just pale. I don't like going outside.
Yeah,
Need a contrasting background.
Graham isn't getting low-resed despite his good internet. Well, all right. I guess the system is working.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to ChillPoint, the show in which we point at chill things. How about I close my window? That's probably part of the reason why.
Many of us.
My window.
Why don't we all close our windows?
Then I would die. You know what?
Greatly reduce the background noise.
All right.
It's 16 degrees at the Victoria International Airport, according to my watch.
Good for them.
Yeah, it's like I'm assuming it's about that chill in town here. It's very very clement.
Near where we live.
Yeah.
And that's apparently what we talk about on this chill point. We talk about how chill it is.
How cold we are.
But for serious, this is where we talk about video game news for the last week. If you have not seen the show before, we do a show on YouTube called CheckPoint, where we have a nice, tight, well-written, and scripted show with graphics and news stuff about all the silly things that are going on in the world of video game news. But there's a lot of stories that don't necessarily make it into the show, either because there's not enough time, or because there's nothing that we can quite put our fingers on that's like the funny part, or they're too complicated to explain, so that you're like, okay, first you need to understand this, and then this, and then this.
Sometimes there's only so many jokes that you can write in a night, and then you realize that it's like, if I don't go to bed soon, I might not go to bed at all. I would like to initially start this show by addressing the fact that, yes, Victoria does have an international airport.
Yes.
And that all you need to qualify to be an international airport, to my understanding, is a large enough runway to land pretty much any plane.
Well, it has to go to you have to have a flight that goes to a different country.
Yes.
Otherwise it's a domestic airport.
I would suspect
there's that too, yeah.
I would suspect, like, maybe the majority of flights going out of Victoria go to places in the States. Maybe? I don't know.
I don't know if it's the majority, but certainly, yeah, they do make the kind of like, oh, we'll jump from here to Seattle or here to Phoenix.
Yeah, I was just saying, and it's not just the like little teeny weeny plane that flies from Victoria to Seattle. We have other planes too.
But yeah, but also like Gander has an international airport, and I don't know how often Gander flies to the United States or to anywhere else in the world.
Oh, Beej, I was learning all about the Gander International Airport yesterday. It's
great.
Fascinating. Do you know why?
My understanding it's an international airport is because it has a large enough space to land like 747s if it needs to. But you tell me why.
Because
Gander is in Newfoundland, by the way.
Yeah, it's from before they had long haul flights that could fly nonstop from England to New York. They had to stop in Newfoundland to refuel. So Gander International Airport was a really important hub. And then they were like, wait, we figured out planes. And then they mothballed it. And just last year, they opened it back up again. And it's like the 60s in there. It looks amazing.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So during 20 years ago, fuck off, during 9/11, that's where they were landing a whole bunch. I can't believe it's 20 years. My God.
Yep.
They were landing a whole bunch of international flights that were supposed to be coming into New York. They're like, we need to land these things somewhere. And they're like, well, you're landing at Gander because that's the best place for you to land. And that's a whole bunch of flights expecting to end up in the United States had to land there while the crisis was going on. People were trying to figure out what the hell's happening. So Gander got a lot of play in the news at that time too.
Mm-hmm.
And and there is actually, as somebody in the chat mentioned, there is now a musical about it.
About which thing that we were just talking about?
About the whole thing because all these people arrived in Gander. It's Come From Away. All these people arrived, and so there's just like, it's quite a small town. Basically, took in hundreds and hundreds of people. And they were living in people's houses and trying to find space for them anywhere they could, and so it's quite a heartwarming story. There was a production on Broadway of the Gander story.
It's really interesting, huh?
All right, should we talk about video game news?
Yeah.
Right. I was like, why were we talking about Gander? Right.
I don't. That's
Stoffer started it.
Yes.
I just want to point that out.
Every decision was made for everything made sense at the time.
I bet you can land in Gander in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah. Authorized or no. Don't be sorry, Stoffer. This was a lot of fun.
Anyway, so let's talk about some of the things that happened in the world of video games this year or this week.
So
the big one
I don't know what we consider the big one necessarily. I was just sort of looking at all the various stories on the page here.
Just call them all the big one. It'll be great.
I don't know which one you consider the big one. This jump rope story?
I actually really like The Last of Us thing has been a lot of controversy because there's so much talking about it.
I do have a big, because again we're this week we're not doing a table read of the written stories. You'll see why later. But yeah, I have a big thing written up for all this stuff around the discourse surrounding The Last of Us and how they had an impractically strict review embargo. And for those who are unaware, what a reviewing embargo means. Generally, things are embargoed for time. They're time gated. It's like, all right, we'll have all the reviewers take a look at the game. You can all write your stories, but you can't publish them until this date, so that no one scoops anybody else, and it's all fair.
So that you can give the games to the reviewers to play, and then all come out at the same time. Yeah.
And not uncommonly, there will be content embargoes as well, which is, don't reveal the end of the game, right? Don't spoil the game in your reviews or whatever.
Yeah.
And this one was incredibly strict. Actually, where's two of the things. Do not include any beat-by-beat descriptions of pivotal narrative or cutscene moments, and do not reveal the fate of any character or the inciting event. Which meant that, and they couldn't talk about anything after the first 12 hours of the game. I'm not going to discuss spoilers here, so don't worry about that.
None of us have actually played this game, by the way. So
no, but I've read all the stuff about spoilers. So
yeah.
But it basically meant that reviewers could talk about the gameplay and be like, oh, it looks very pretty. The rope physics is super impressive. But couldn't...
Something with the rope happens in the first 12 hours of the game. We know that now.
And it looks awesome.
Yeah, but they couldn't actually talk about the story and the narrative and if the narrative was satisfying, if the character arcs were earned, and that's kind of important for a game who they're like the creative leads behind the game have basically just been like jerking off how amazing their narrative is, and reviewers couldn't talk about it, and so it left discussion about the game sitting in this weird nega space.
And it's
and
ostensibly to like avoid spoilers, and it's like that's reviewers handle that all the time. That's like a normal thing. Reviewers know how to review a game and give you some idea of story elements without spoiling the game. It's not like that's a thing that reviewers do.
Yeah, and Emergent OS, let me agree and slightly correct you there. Polygon reported that the after Vice did their review, that a Sony rep on behalf of Naughty Dog contacted the reviewer because they were like, we think that some of the conclusions you came to are unfair. And it's like, fuck off. Like,
I disagree.
That's not a like that's not a thing that happens. According to the reviewer, it was not a confrontational discussion, but it's still a discussion that like shouldn't happen.
I mean,
Right.
and if I was the reviewer, I might be like, "Oh yeah, are you willing to go on a record to have a conversation about it?"
Right?
Because you're going to be my news story.
The there was it Rock Paper Shotgun or one of the review sites went so far as to they published their review that was like a 5-page review or something with just giant black areas. Like they literally like had just, and then black square, black square, black square, like huge black paragraphs.
Just redacted.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I forget who
redacted of us.
who did that, but
Did Wodar asks, did they go directly to the reviewer or the company? Apparently, they went to the reviewer. They contacted Rob Zacny directly, and that's very, very strange. And it's just I don't know. I really don't like how Sony and Naughty Dog are attempting to not even control the narrative, control how people are supposed to talk about the narrative for this game. That has, by the way, been astronomically successful. It sold 4 million copies in its first 3 days. It's the fastest selling PS4 exclusive ever.
and
Right.
And it's like the question, the thing I've seen a lot of is like a lot of those were pre-sales. So it's like it wasn't even people like looking at the reviews and deciding anyway. It was just people who liked, Last of Us 1 and was like, yes, I want to get it. I want more of that. So like it wasn't even like who knows how much difference it actually made one way or another.
Yeah.
I think you're peaking a bit, Paul.
Oh, am I? I apologize.
A little bit. It sounds like, yeah.
This doesn't come up in the story that I wrote, but I did just this morning read like a full. Zacny was like, "All right, let's talk about this," and did a full like maximum spoilers. Let's discuss the end of the game. Like let's look at the narratives, and by his reading of it, and like I'm reading the story, and it's like there's some like questionable narrative choices that I'm just like this seems very strange, and I can't talk about it more without spoiling it, and for the benefit of the people watching, I don't want to do that because apparently the game, many people are enjoying the game, and I don't want to ruin that for them. But
assuming you're prepared to it's not a lighthearted game. It's gonna be pretty heavy going.
Yeah.
Like I don't know anything about the game much. I will say I feel like from everything I've read, it continues on what I remember from us doing the unskippable of the first Last of Us way back in the day. Is like during the during the opening cutscene, the guy's daughter gets horribly killed.
Yeah.
And like that kind of sets the tone for the series, okay?
Yeah.
Like if the opening, like if you check out on that, then that's probably for the best that was the opening cutscene, and you can return the game.
Like I'd like to think that the this kind of positioning when you want to get a game reviewed makes some sense, that you want to be very strict, because a lot of reviewers are going to treat this as journalists, but they're going to be some reviewers who are not going to treat it as well as you might want to treat it. They'll be like, well, I have the game, I can review the game, and I can talk about everything in the game, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to spoil things for everybody. I'm not going to put spoiler warnings on, like all these kind of things. You're like, well, we want people to be able to enjoy the story without having to have like flip to the back page or whatever, right? So you go to extremes like that, but it keeps such a bad taste in my mouth, because I'm like, I would just assume that most reviewers would be like, because I see this on Polygon a lot, where it's like spoilers follow. Like that happens in Ars Technica, it happens on a lot of other sites, where it's like, what comes next is a bunch of spoilers, and we're not going to cover them up with black bars that you have to click on to view. We're just going to say spoilers are on their way. So if you don't want to read this article, save it for later, come back later. And that's kind of like, that's how I thought most responsible people would treat it. And the fact that they are going out of their way to say, we just don't want you to talk about this stuff. And it doesn't even sound like there's like a deadline to say, like, for the first week, please don't talk about the narrative or major plot points or whatever. Because you can do that in a week, and you can have all the discourse you want in a week, but we don't want people to be spoiled on it in the first week. And that's not what's going on here. It's like literally just saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, and we're not putting any time limits on it. And to basically say you can't even say if the narrative's like satisfying to you or not, I'm like, that's such an overreach.
Yeah. And Emergent OS was saying, what I don't understand is whether Sony's behavior is an outlier, the absolute, or an unfortunate norm. I don't know exactly which behavior you're talking about. The incredibly restrictive embargo, very uncommon, and contacting a reviewer to be like, hey, we think that was unfair. That's supremely uncommon. This is not the first time it's ever happened, but that is not normal.
It's kind of bad form
for a publisher or a developer to directly contact a reviewer and be like, hey, we think that you're wrong, is not a thing.
It has, there have been instances of it happening before, but it's generally, there's, in fact, I think I saw like a Twitter thread, people were talking about various publisher overreach things, and they're talking about a situation where they were at a GDC or some video game conference, and they were asked into a meeting with a publisher that they had just done a review of, and the meeting ended up being like the developer of the game that they had given the bad review of, basically being like, I don't think you've really thought about all the hard work a lot of people went to make this game, and how much your review is going to like impact that. And that's just so like, because the whole, because there's the connection, right? There's the Metacritic to like bonus connection.
This is something that I didn't get into in the story, but that is a massive bugbear that I hate, which is, okay, Metacritic is a bad idea. There's my hot take. Metacritic shouldn't exist. And ultimately, a Metacritic score doesn't actually mean anything. There are perfectly respectable Metacritic scores that have been astronomically monetarily successful. There are games that get shit on in Metacritic scores that are beloved. If you look at their top games, then yes, the like top Metacritic rated games are also, generally speaking, games that are beloved and financially successful, but that's not because they have a high Metacritic score. The problem is that publishers have occasionally, this is not like an industry-wide thing, but the publishers have tied developer bonuses to the Metacritic score, to literally Metacritic's score. Meaning, like, if this game gets rated 85 or higher, then the developer gets another $10 million to disperse as bonuses. And that is shitty. That is a supremely bullshit thing to do to your developers. And then you get into the situation where you get this sort of the tribalism of people who already think that a game deserves a good review, which is a bad enough problem anyway, and get angry at reviewers for giving their opinion and their critique of this piece of work, being like, you're, attacking the reviewers for saying you giving this a bad score is taking money away from the developers. And it's like, that shouldn't be on the reviewers at all. That shouldn't be part of the conversation. It's gross.
And you can see, like, from a sort of naive perspective, you can see this idea of like that will encourage them to make a good game. But it's like the it's sort of trying to because I mean, of course, whenever you're doing any business analytics, right, you need sort of objective measurements of stuff. How many hours people have worked on a thing, how many bugs that they've fixed, how many, whatever. And Metacritic is there as sort of this, like, they can go like, oh, hey, we have this objective measurement of the goodness of the game. So now we can use that as, to fill into our spreadsheets and show that, to show that, hey, our last game was 75 on Metacritic. Our latest game is 78 on Metacritic. So we had a year-over-year 3% increase in Metacritic score. So obviously we're being successful as a company. And it's just like trying to boil down something as complicated as whether a game is fun and good to a number. Is very enticing for business types, but is often not useful.
And I like Metacritic, but I like it for it's like I saw this game and it looked interesting, but I'd like to know what people who have played it think about it. So I go there and I'm like, oh, look, it got a 75. That's not bad. There's a lot of games out there that score in the 70s. I'll probably enjoy this game. I have played, look at other games that are similar to it. I'm like, oh, that game that I really loved also got a 75. I'll probably like this game too. But I'll then also look at who wrote all the reviews, and then from those, then I'll be like, I've heard of this outlet. I've heard of this outlet. I'm going to go read the actual review and see what they have to say. Click on the thing, go read the thing, see what they have to say about it. Come back and be like, now I'm going to read a really terrible review from a place that I know of and see what they had to say about it. Okay, now I have two different takes on whether this is going to be good or not. Now I know whether I want to buy this game or not. And that's not what Metacritic has come for the vast majority of people. People don't want to plug in that way. They want to see their favorite game make it to the top of the list. And like you say, the industry wants the scores to be as high as possible, so everyone will just go see what's at the top of the list and buy that. And it's like, it has become a terrible game. Like the game of Metacritic itself has become a terrible game.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, game review stuff continues to be. I mean, it's not like this is news in the sense it's a new thing. No. I'm pretty sure we did stories about that on ENN.
Yeah.
But,
actually, I'm just sort of trying to get in my head that like this is a different show than actual CheckPoint, and if do I talk about stuff here that I'm going to repeat later? But I'm gonna. Farabender brought up the Troy Baker tweet, which I do want to just briefly talk about, which was so games columnist Jason Schreier, who does a lot of good work, tweeted basically a shit post that just said, no other context, video games are too long. when asked, he said, when asked later, he said that he wasn't actually talking specifically about The Last of Us 2, but that The Last of Us 2 does indeed sort of fall into what he considers as a recent thing of like some first player experiences being like padded out, beyond, which is a criticism of The Last of Us 2 that other people have had. So he just tweeted, video games are too long. And Troy Baker, the voice actor for Joel in The Last of Us, quote tweeted that with an image of Theodore Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena excerpt from his what's the actual full name of the speech? The citizen of a republic, I think. And I just want to clarify that. Where do I have this written down? Right. When Roosevelt said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood." What Theodore Roosevelt was talking about was people who look down on those who are trying to improve society, who are trying to work to better the republic, not media critics, which is a very different thing.
Different words for, or different meaning of the word. Yeah.
But hey, you know, go to WikiQuote, type in the word critic, and see if you can find something that backs up your worldview, I guess.
And so what the reason that this bothered me particularly is because basically what Baker is saying with this quote is a very, very fancy way of the long time, criticism of critics that says that you can't, that you aren't allowed to be critical of a creative work if you don't make any yourself, which is not true.
I mean, and demonstrably not true.
Yeah, and that's basically what he's saying. Which also the fact that Troy Baker assumed that it was
pointed at,
I don't know. He took it very personally. I think it was a very being I'm not owned moment.
There is that aspect. People do that to themselves, where somebody makes some sort of insulting thing that people are like, that might be related to this other thing, and then when the person who might be related to that gets all offended and goes, hey, it's like, the fact that you're offended by that indicates that now you are also on board with this whole, there was the thing with what was it that Lindsay Lohan, I love that when Lindsay Lohan sued Rockstar because there's a character in GTA 4 or 5 who's a totally irresponsible starlet who's getting into car accidents and crashing stuff and causing all sorts of problems and is on drugs and and so it's you made that character too much like me. It's so you're saying that's what you're like? Well, yeah, no, but
but demonstrably I am that person, aren't I? It's
yeah, I believe that particular one didn't stick.
Yeah. No,
I think
that could be anybody who's gets into car accidents and on drugs.
I do feel that you get really good criticism. The level of what you can do as a critic rises when you have actually spent some time understanding the nature of the thing that you're criticizing. Obviously, anytime you put more effort and work into something to really understand it, then your level of critical discourse does increase. And so if you take somebody who plays video games a lot, that's one thing. But if you take somebody who makes video games and they can see all the edges, I mean, that makes it even harder, right? Because somebody who plays video or makes video games is like, oh, I can see why they made this choice that they did. I can see, oh, it's actually ruining the game for me now because it's like people who make movies going to watch movies and being like, I can see they made this choice and God, they shouldn't have made. I see the lighting is bad here. You can see this is bad there, right?
I find
that's a technical standpoint thing.
I find reviews of that kind, reviews of video games by people who have made video games, for instance, to be very interesting. Mm-hmm. And it does offer a really interesting perspective.
It certainly helps when reviewers have an understanding of how the media they're reviewing is made. Because I've seen many YouTube reviewers, be like, "Why is it this way?" And it's like, because that's how games are made. If you understood how games are made, that you wouldn't have this criticism because you don't understand that. But you still don't need to actually be a creator.
No, I mean, I would argue that there's probably a lot of game reviewers that have played more video games than game developers have. Especially
just for the value of having time.
Yeah, there's a section of game developer. There's always the section of game developers thinking of the David Cage types who aren't actually that into video games and do things in their games that they sort of are like, we're going to do this amazing idea that people are like, yeah, people have done that before. It's not that you're not actually that, doing something that new right now.
Dang.
You just don't know because you haven't played that many video games. Anyway.
So yeah, that has been a kind of a summation real quick of the Last of Us 2 discourse and all the major elements, I guess. There will be more in the story, obviously. Okay, so the big one this week. Everybody has seen this right now because it's immensely shareable. You can hook a sex vibrator up to Animal Crossing.
Finally.
Yeah, we've all been waiting for this. It has been the quarantine,
nightmare.
and we've been dying to have this happen.
I love Animal Crossing, but it doesn't make me feel funny in the downstairs place.
Yeah.
You love Animal Crossing, but don't, love
Animal.
Animal Crossing.
So let's be clear, though, and I'll literally say those words again when I read the real story, but this isn't an Animal Crossing story. The story is really about something called buttplug.io, or the Buttplug Intimate Hardware Control Library. It's open source. You can use your computer to control all sorts of fun things that are like sex toys, electrostim devices, like anything that is like a mechanical device by which you can receive some sort of sexual pleasure. They've written an open source library that you can tie that to your computer. And so what this is about is somebody was like, hey, I can use somebody's pre-written Joy-Con relay code. I can intercept all the HID commands, which is human interface device. I can intercept all the HID commands, and I can just use the rumble component of that to rumble a vibrator that already connects to a computer. And that's just, I'm going to do that with the Switch because the Switch is on my desk, and I'm just going to program it for that. And hey, look, it works. How can I test this? Well, I have Animal Crossing in my Switch, and it makes rumbles every time I hit my shovel. So, hey, look, it works. And here's a little video, and now I've gone viral. But
So it could have been any game. It doesn't.
could have been any game. But you pick the most inappropriate one so that you can go viral, which I think is very, very canny, obviously. But
Really
it's just
help it'll really help you zero in on when you have to catch the fish.
Yes.
The
Blunk. Oh fuck.
What-
They're programming for the PS4 and for the Xbox as well. The person who's coding this is kind of just making what they're calling a console games haptic router, which is part of the games haptic router. And it's just a very simple proof of concept thing right now. But it's like, hey, now you can plug this shit into a Switch controller and make this stuff work.
What I'm hoping and what I imagine about this is, because of course this is an open source library and it's actually quite a generic thing, right? It's for controlling stuff. Effectively, this is like a way to translate the haptic functions of a controller or whatever into motor controls or whatever.
Yeah. Servo control, really, yeah.
Servo controls, right? And so I want to go us be in this situation where it's just like, we've got this RC airplane that we're controlling now using buttplug.io. It's like it's the best library. I don't know what to say.
Now here's a question: the Switch Lite doesn't have rumble.
Oh, does it not?
But does it still send the rumble signals?
Right?
Interesting. Is this take the vibrator, tape it to your Switch Lite? Suddenly you've added vibration capabilities to your Switch Lite.
Can it does it work with a Pro controller? Because if the Switch Lite if you can interface a Pro controller to the Switch Lite, which I think you might if it has Bluetooth on board,
I think you can, yes.
Then it will send rumble control to the Pro controller, which means that yes, this still works.
Ah.
You compare
the provision is by Bluetooth,
and you can pair other Joy-Cons with this Lite, right?
Oh right, yeah.
So there's right now buttplug.io. God, it's fun to say. Doesn't actually support Joy-Cons at all. If you go to their website, they do have a website. And it's not just a software project. It is a set of standards. You can eventually. They're saying that Joy-Con control is coming soon. Oculus Rift control is coming soon. HTC Vive, Rumble only components for VR, by the way. But yeah, the idea is that they're trying to tie all of those game controllers into a generic library. And if you do, and people in the chat have already brought this up, and I'm like, oh, it's part of my story. We do talk about the Res Trans vibrator, so don't worry about that. We will talk about the Res Trans vibrator for the PS2 very briefly.
Try and stop him from talking about the Res Trans vibrator.
Yeah.
Actually, could you do the jump rope thing? I need to just step away for 2 seconds.
You bet. So the other story I wrote this week is. This is weird, and if you have a Switch, you may have heard about this. If you don't have a Switch, you may not have heard about this. Nintendo just shadow dropped a game called Jump Rope Challenge. It's a very simple game. You can go online, and if you have a Switch, you can go download it because it's free, and it's a fitness game. You just stand there with the Joy-Cons in your hand. You need Joy-Cons for this. And you don't even have to jump. You can just swing your arms. But if you jump and swing your arms, then that's the idea about getting more.
I guess it can't tell that you've jumped, eh?
Exactly. All it can see is that you've actually swung the Joy-Cons in a full circle. It's very simple graphics. It just basically looks like it came straight out of a game jam. And it was made by employees who were working from home because of COVID-19, and they just wanted a way to stay fit that was very straightforward. And it's like, that seems like a very internal kind of, we're just screwing around Skunkworks project. And all of a sudden it's on the Switch eShop. And there's 2 tweets that went out. That was it. It's like, here's the thing. Oh, by the way, here in the second tweet is like, and it's because our, internal employees made this so they could stay fit during isolation. So we ignored that. That came out a couple weeks ago. And it's like, why is this the way that this is? Like, this is what it is. But it's like, why? Okay, we didn't talk about it, but I had to talk about it this week because it got an update, and it's not like even a bug fix update, like where it's like, oh, we realized a couple bugs, so we just fixed a couple of bugs. Haha, that's very good. Whatever. It's like, no, it's content, and it's a free content update. You're getting new Nintendo themed costumes. You're getting new backgrounds. They added a feature now. You can double under, where you can spin the rope twice every time you jump, like that kind of thing. And it's just so weird that this exists, and I want so bad for this to be the kind of thing that now just Nintendo programmers will kind of always work on this like forever, because, and I don't say this in the story, this is only going to be on the eShop until September apparently. So if you want it, go ahead and download it, because it's not going to come back if they're taking it off the eShop. But I was just kind of caught off guard by the idea that they made this thing, they released it, there's no Nintendo branding, there's no credits. This was literally like a Skunkworks project, I think, just for fun. And somebody was like, we should just put it out there. And I'm like, I hope that other people in the company are like, yes, let's add this now. Let's add this now. Everyone just starts working on it as kind of like a stupid little project. And the next thing you know, it's 25 gigs and it has all these features. And I'm like, oh, I want this so bad to be just a weird, dumb thing they just made for no, like, very little reason. So we'll see.
You know that when they finally, eventually, someday, God willing, get around to making another WarioWare game, that this will be referenced in there somewhere, because there are some deep cuts in WarioWare games, things that I don't even get, and so this will definitely be somewhere in there.
I mean, I'm dying for this to show up as an assist trophy in Ultimate.
What's particular? Like, of course, this is not this kind of a thing is not really that unusual in the PC realm. Right?
No.
But this is very un-Nintendo, right? This is like, Nintendo's the people who have like the lockdown on all their, all their branding and all their stuff. Like, also what this means is that even if you work for Nintendo, Ring Fit controllers are hard to come by.
It's true. That's really weird. Yeah, it was a fun goofy, like a very weird little story that I'm kind of fascinated by, and I'm interested to see what happens over the summer with it. If it just even more things happen. All right, back to you, Graham.
Okay, let me talk to you about this great new speed run.
Mhm.
There we go. Okay, so Discord. I like Discord. I think they're generally pretty cool. We're using it now. They tweeted rather innocently that they're just sort of like, "Hey, what's up? It's a place for everybody." And the U.S. Army Esports Twitter account responded asking about when they're going to do bigger plushies of their mascot, and after a brief back and forth, ended the conversation by responding. Checks notes. Ooh woo.
The way you would expect the U.S. Army to respond to things.
Yeah. So people thought that was kind of gross. I mean, people think the U.S. Army having an esports team is kind of gross because they're using it as a recruiting tool. They're using video games to recruit youth into the Army. That's why the U.S. Army has an esports team.
Yeah, that's not like a conspiracy theory. That's
that's
the mission statement.
Did you know? Yeah, exactly. And so that combined with trying to pal up to Discord and using the cutesy furry speak, they were like, this is gross. So some people are now trolling the U.S. Army Discord server with a speed run of how fast can you get banned from the U.S. Army Esports Discord server.
The ban percent.
The fastest one in this article, I think, is 9 seconds. There's people posting like weird Garfield copy pasta, the recruiter image macro. The fastest one was someone just linked to the Wikipedia entry for U.S. military war crimes. And so that was the 9 seconds, but it could get faster.
Mm-hmm. It's the speed run is interesting because it's a bit of a cooperative speed run, right? You gotta there's the person who's trying to get banned, and then there's the person who's banning them. So, or maybe it's all bot. I guess probably if you post that Wikipedia article, a bot just bans you now, but
maybe now I don't know, but. Yeah. Anyway, I just find that very entertaining that people are like, "Oh, I've thought of a new speed run."
And no, we're not, and we here are not trying to throw shade on anybody's military, any way, shape, or form. There are people in the Loading Ready Run community who are in active service and who are also veterans. It's very brave of you to do that kind of thing, and I don't know if I could. But yeah, this was a little gross of the esports representatives to do this, and I think that them kind of catching some hell from it from the community is very funny, and I kind of hope it goes on for a while.
You could almost think of it as the internet esports community kind of saying hi.
Yeah.
It's like, welcome to the community. We're gonna troll the crap out of you for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You are one of us.
Don't worry, you earned this shit. But anyway, yeah.
There's a ton of new stuff in Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Fish
other than the butt plug, yeah.
Yes.
Fish and bugs. Actually in the game.
Yeah.
There are 4 different kinds of cicada that are just brown, giant, evening, and robust. What kind of mood are you in today? I'm looking for an evening cicada. I just kind of want to relax, Or do you feel like you need a robust cicada?
Is it just me, or are all the screenshots I've seen of this? Mm-hmm. The bugs look like they're like photorealistic, just kind of stuck into Animal Crossing. Like that, they're not in the same art style as the rest of Animal Crossing. That's weird.
Correct.
Well, what's funny about this too is that they did that in Pocket Camp when I was playing it in May. When New Horizons launched, they had an event where you could go down to the water and you could catch what they called island fish. And you would catch like an island red snapper, and it was way higher resolution and way prettier and way nicer than the standard red snapper that you could catch in that game. They had basically said they brought in all the nicer models to show how beautiful everything was going to be in New Horizons. But all of the iconography in the game for a red snapper is the same, I think, as it's always been across Animal Crossing. Is that if you open your inventory, the icon representing a red snapper is the same as it's always been. It's just that the actual model in the game that you see for realsies is completely just like photorealistic or as close as they can get.
All the bugs and fish, obviously the scale is completely all over the place.
Yes.
Just for visual clarity, but they all look as photorealistic as possible.
Like when you catch a whale shark, it's not the same size as a whale shark, but it is big.
Although I'm now reading, Beach, that there's a walking leaf insect.
I've caught it, yeah.
Yeah, that you find near trees disguised as a furniture leaf.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Brilliant. That's so funny.
I kind of want to see their take on like an adorable cicada.
What makes it just giant eyes? That's what makes anything cute, right?
There's a reason. Eyes. There's a reason Blathers does not like the bugs.
Also, I'm just saying possibly the vibrational control might be a good way of finding cicadas. If you are just
probably not.
You just wander around and wait for your controller to vibrate or something else to vibrate.
I haven't caught any cicadas yet. Do they chirp? Because I haven't.
It says they make a noise.
I've only caught one my Switch had the volume turned down. I've only caught a robust cicada. There are actually so many. There's 6 new fish. 5 new fish, and then a ton of new bugs.
Is a robust cicada a cicada that you're attempting to not body shame because it's a little overweight?
They do. I mean, that's what Blathers talks about, how it is like a very large cicada. There's grasshopper, 4 cicadas, and a cicada shell, a blue weevil beetle, the earth-boring dung beetle.
Caught one of those.
Scarab, saw stag, Miami stag, giant stag, cyclomata stag, golden stag, giraffe stag, horned dynastid, horned atlas, horned elephant, horned Hercules, walking stick, and walking leaf. That's so many new bugs. Holy moly! Yeah. I gotta get my net.
Most of them are available. It seems like a lot of them are available after 5 p.m. So that's great. That's a fucking victory for me.
I got bad news. Most of the cicadas are only around until 5 p.m.
Yeah. So some of them trading
everything
out.
Everything else is after 5, but the cicadas are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah, they'll have to hop on before 5 then today.
Then they punch out the clock and trade with the evening cicada.
Morning, Ralph.
Morning, Sam.
I'm just imagining that you just log into your Animal Crossing island and the entire island has just been like completely destroyed, like all the greenery is gone. and there's just like a huge swarm of cicadas covering your entire island.
Let me tell you, Paul, I would welcome that just so I could catch these goddamn things and be done with it.
Radian says, as someone who doesn't play Animal Crossing, when do you think we will run out of stories about the game? When they develop a vaccine. To be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think people are. I mean, it's not quite the fever pitch that it was, but the people who are still playing it, I don't think are going to stop anytime soon.
Look, there's no secret that the stories we do on CheckPoint are biased towards the games that the CheckPoint hosts are interested in themselves. So
if you haven't picked up on,
I would imagine that when and if the hosts of CheckPoint start playing less Animal Crossing, there might be less Animal Crossing stories then.
Yeah, if you didn't pick up on the fact that this guy here does almost nothing but Nintendo related stories every time he's on CheckPoint, I don't know what to tell you at this point.
Wait a minute.
Let me talk about the Division 2 then.
I want to just say one thing because I saw this go by. Radian said this in chat. It's like they didn't want to pay $600, $700 US to get a Switch. Well, what I have seen recently is apparently Switch production is back online, like it's coming back up to levels where they expected it. So you should start to see the standard detachable Joy-Con switches make their way back into stores at this point.
Nice.
Anyway, yes.
So I'm not actually actively playing the Division 2, despite everything we just said, but this is a great story. There was a new raid coming out, and as often is the case when a new raid releases, there's a race.
Operation Iron Horse.
Streamers like to race to be the first, the world first clear on a new raid, which would be fine, except that one of the teams basically got the teacher's notes. The controversy arose when a player on the second place squad, a content creator named Marco Style, admitted during his Twitch stream his team had been using an apparently leaked document with details on what to inspect in the raid.
They came in second?
Yeah, so I mean,
ouch.
Did the team that came in first also have access to this document? So people are trying to sort of. There are accusations and controversy surrounding the world first clear of the Division 2.
How much money do you make for clearing something world first?
Oh, you don't.
I mean, it depends on whether you can turn your fame at being the world first clear. Perhaps you can turn that into
the
streaming or whatever, right?
The dev doesn't pay you. When last time it happened for Destiny,
sometimes you get an in-game thing.
The world first team got like a championship belt.
Ooh, okay.
Like a real actual IRL thing. Only the first team. And because lots of people were watching it, they got, like flooded with subscribers and bits or whatever because they were streaming it. So, there is that aspect, but you don't. It's just it's publicity and swag.
I am seeing at the end of the story they say that the first people to complete Operation Iron Horse will be commemorated with in-game paintings. So that's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Also, so in addition to the to the like notes for the raid, apparently the guy also later on confessed to having his character actually had in the past used an exploit to speed his character progression. Which was allowed you to it was a way to go through higher level areas than you're supposed to be able to earlier than you can, so you can get XP really fast.
This is still the guy who finished in second place, right?
Which has since been patched out, and supposedly most of the people who used that exploit got their characters nerfed, but I guess this guy didn't. So he was also using a glitch. So yeah, he was using he wasn't currently using the glitch, but his character had been kind of was more powerful than it maybe should have been.
The developers, for their part, by the way, said there's no evidence that other teams received this document or were using it. Until we can find evidence, we still want to celebrate this achievement. We don't want to accuse anyone of being guilty until they're actually proven guilty, and we'll wait until the investigation surfaces. So the developers, as far as they're concerned, the team that did clear it first did so legitimately. But I guess we'll find out later.
Which is Team Solo Mid?
Former. Yes. Which include Team Solo Mid streamer.
Right.
Solid FPS was streamer Solid FPS, who's a former PUBG pro and is on Team Solo Mid, was on the team that did clear it. So, I remember that, Ash Tyrannic. That's super cool.
Was the first case of esports doping? I'm pretty sure that's already happened.
For anyone not in chat, Ash Tyrannic was one of the first people was in the world's first to finish Whisper of the Worm in Destiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Help me out here. Yourself and Ouija and I don't recall Squid. Yeah. Awesome. But that was not technically a raid, but Still super cool. Okay, so squid, says Carf's brother. 3 eyes. Squid. What else we got going on?
So here's a story that's sad, but it's a little bit it's got kind of an uplifting thing to it. EVE Online, as you know, it's a game that means a lot to a lot of people, and there's a player, Chappie78, Christopher Chapman, and who found out that he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, or he's been fighting it for a while, and then it reemerged.
It's stage 4 now.
Reemerged, and he had a very bad prognosis, and so he he made a post on the EVE forums that he's saying, this is going to be my last birthday probably, and I want to have the biggest battle, and basically he's been playing EVE Online for a really long time and has quite a large fleet. He's like, I want to destroy my entire fleet while I still can enjoy it.
Because you can't take your ISK with you, right? Like,
yeah.
So why not just cash out?
And so this sort of gained traction and started becoming a whole thing, and it ended up everyone. This massive battle, over 2,000 people participated in this battle in the end, and it ended up being this just huge battle, and it went on for so long that people died and then respawned and got into ships and flew back and kept fighting. They started calling it World War Chappie. Chappie was the guy.
The part where it's like EVE Online streamers warped in with rare and expensive ships to sacrifice in the battle.
Because it was just basically like a meat grinder. Like, it was just like, we're not battling for any there is no goal of this battle other than destroying ships.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's like two sides to the battle. Like, it was just a free for all. And apparently even CCP Convict, who's the community manager for EVE Online, appeared in the system flying like a unique Titan-class ship that only EVE developers have, and joined in the fight. The battle raged for hours. In the end, Chappie lost his all his capital class spaceships. Over 100 different players got credit for the destruction of his ship, which means that they at least did a little bit of damage to the ship. And it was a whole thing. It was really neat. And I don't know what the final cost of the fight. They sometimes do the tallies of the final cost. This article doesn't have that. But one of the one thing is in the days after the battle, he posted that he was originally not going to do treatment for this, because he was at a stage where it probably wouldn't be that effective, in terms of quality of life and stuff. And he's encouraged, after talking it over with his son and different things, that he will be he is going to undergo treatment. He still is going to be stepping back from, he's retiring his character, but perhaps saying, perhaps we will one day see Chappie 78 fly again. So, yeah, that's very, very heartwarming, and apparently it's something that is actually something of a tradition in the EVE community of having what is, I guess, effectively a fireworks display. You could almost see it as.
I like in the story that it does say, and you can tell the person who wrote this, Lee Yancey, plays a lot of EVE, obviously, because of the familiarity with it. But Lee says that birthday fleets are a long-standing tradition, and memorial fleets are also very common. So it's kind of like, smash these two together, and that's a living, a living wake is what Chappie got to enjoy here.
So that's
Super
really neat.
cool.
I love so much reading stories about the Eve online world is not something that I would necessarily want to play, but it has some of the most interesting emergent gameplay scenarios that I've ever seen. It's the closest thing I think to an actual to a real system where the developers they've made the game and then are surprisingly hands off,
Mm.
and they've allowed pretty bad things to happen in the game for players doing to each other. There have been pyramid schemes and horrible, like, the players have done things to each other that uh, uh, most developers, if they're running an online thing, would want to lock down on. And so it's neat that they have allowed all this to happen, and it isn't just a cesspool.
Yeah.
That there probably is a lot of that, but that there is also this other part to it, which I really like.
You may be forgiven for not recalling that Amazon Game Studios released their first major PC game a little while ago called Crucible, a
I
free
forgive
to
you.
play, yeah, a free to play action MOBA. They are now unreleasing it.
I've never heard that term before.
Well, they basically they put it up on Steam, and it was received with all the warmth of a walk-in freezer, and they have a daily concurrent player base of less than 200 people, and so they are pulling it back off of Steam to
I'm sorry if you are one of the 200 people that was playing it. Although,
That's a very
please,
heavy ellipsis.
please give us your perspective if you were one of the 200 people. That would be awesome if you were
yeah.
currently in
Oh,
chat.
I'm sorry. Here we go.
It's
To
tech.
to quote, help us focus on providing the best experience for our players.
It's closed beta now. It's been
Yeah.
taken out of finished and become a closed beta again.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah, it's a tough. It's a tough. I mean, uh, apparently this game kind of started off on the wrong. I mean, for one thing, it's a MOBA that just came out recently. So I mean, they're already like they've got a long road to go there.
Yeah.
The MOBA field is pretty well sewn up at this point. In fact, most of the people who are big in the MOBA world have themselves gone on to other stuff.
They didn't do any sort of early beta or soft early access. They just were like, it's 1.0, open to everyone in May. Bam, here's the game.
Yeah,
And everybody was like, what? What? Why? What?
and I mean, I certainly didn't hear anything about it in
No.
terms of
Why it didn't it
marketing
it
and
doesn't
stuff.
it doesn't have text chat.
Yeah, that seems like
Like
something.
there's like a lot of missing features.
how do people know if you're pushing mid?
Anyway, this is it was developed, or is, I guess, is still being developed by, so I'm trying to remember the name of the actual, because they're a wholly owned subsidiary of Amazon Game Studios, Relentless Studios. So
It's a shame.
I guess the joke is that they have relented. Haha.
I mean, this is one of those things where you feel really bad for the developers, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that they probably it's like they made a cool game.
Yeah.
But they the combination of like the area that they're making it in and how it's being released and all this stuff, they're like, what are we doing? Like we're spending years and years on this game that they probably know nobody's gonna play. Like in their heart of hearts, when you're like it's got to be it's got to be a hard hard to work on a game that is kind of like not, even if it's a good game, but that it's not really going to get any traction. And with these with these online games, once you've lost your first kind of go at it. But maybe they can come back for it, but it's a tough one.
Speaking of games sort of having support pulled, kinda. Hey, remember Fortnite, but like actual Fortnite, not Fortnite Battle Royale?
Where you fight zombies.
The part of Fortnite where it's forts at night.
Yeah, remember that one? No, anybody? No. Anyway, so as they rebranded it, Fortnite: Save the World. So they are Epic is reversing its plan to make Save the World free to play, and is sort of pumping the brakes on developing that mode. Save the World, quote, will no longer be able to support all upcoming Fortnite Battle Royale cosmetic purchases, but your existing library of cosmetics will continue to function in both modes. All paid founders will have their founders packs upgraded to the next level and unlock all the rewards included in their next upgraded pack for free. Homebase Ultimate Edition will be granted the new Metal Team Leader pack and 8,000 V-Bucks. Yeah, they're basically just like, we are going to stop pretending that we care about this mode as much. Because we don't, but we're going to actually stop pretending that we do.
And I feel like this is one of those things where, like, the people who were really big into Save the World mode, I mean, I'm sure they saw the writing on the wall for a long time. And they were probably like, oh, man, this really sucks. And, like, hey, Epic, come on, support a thing. And I like 100% expect that for the last, 3 years where Fortnite Battle Royale has been king, Epic has been going, but don't worry, Save the World is just as important to us. And we're not going to, that's the real, we really think that part of the game is the soul of the game. And that's the part that we really, so don't worry that, the Battle Royale part is getting a lot more attention. Everything is always going to work for Save the World mode and stuff. That's sort of like, trying to encourage, trying to like make sure people don't jump ship on the Save the World thing. I remember. I would imagine that over the past while they have been getting more and more bitter about things.
I remember seeing the Fortnite booth before it was Fortnite Save the World, when it was just Fortnite. I remember seeing the Fortnite booth at PAX, and anyone who knows PAX West will know what I mean when I say that their booth was on the 6th floor expo hall.
Oh,
yeah, and was like there were not any particularly large lineups, and I remember seeing the booth and going like, oh yeah, I remember seeing a trailer for that. That looked kind of neat. No one seems to really care about it. Oh well. I'm sure Epic will figure something out, and
I mean, they did.
Narrator's note, they did.
Yeah.
Huh.
What else?
There's this cute little. That's really fucking reductive. But let's try that again. There's an amazing emulator that turns
adorable.
Yeah, 2D NES games into fully 3D worlds, which is not at all true.
Right. Hold up, what?
I didn't read this. This is not a great way to headline this story. So there's a new thing on Steam. It's an NES emulator, and it takes the 2D pixel graphics of classic 8-bit games and turns them into 3D worlds built with voxels. I'm reading that off of the first sentence from the Kotaku article. So it's called 3D Sin, and you can play standard versions. There's a great little video that shows how these have kind of been implemented. But this isn't automatic, and that's what I thought this was initially. I thought, oh, these will be like automatic generation, that he's taking bits like sprites and stuff like that and is converting them. No, he took the person who makes this. I'm saying he because he keeps coming up. Tran Vutruk made this 5 years ago called 3D NES, and I think we actually mentioned it at the time.
I remember talking about this on CheckPoint or something. Yeah, I remember talking about this. And because the original version of it was actually an automatic system, where it would basically just use the 3 or 4 layers that which is how Nintendo worked. Like you've got like a couple of different layers that it can draw. So like the sprites are on one
Yeah.
layer and then the background and all the stuff. And so then it would kind of extrude those out, but it often didn't work very well.
Yeah, and Tron said that simple games like Mario Brothers, Dr. Mario, Donkey Kong, and Galaga, which are all like single screen games essentially, only require several days of work to convert into 3D, while games like Mario 3, Legend of Zelda, and Excitebike, where they have those more like the deeper style elements, could require weeks or months to be created. And it's like, well, wait, I thought this was automatic. No. He sits down now because he realizes that it's like this doesn't look as good in all these different games. He sits down and converts them to 3D himself.
So but then that means that this thing that's on, I'm sorry, you said Steam?
Yes.
Is then just full of, how is this not illegal?
Yeah,
It's gotta definitely be illegal, and I think you need
still
the
have to
ROMs to play it.
You still have to supply your own ROMs.
Yes.
But presumably it's just got a ton of code in it to translate those ROMs into things. It's definitely in the grayish area, I would guess.
It's kind of like I'm gobsmacked at the amount of work that Tron's had to put in to convert this, because he has to write for every game, for every kind of element. He's then having to write a new way to interpret it and I'm just like, that's too much, dude. Like, you're making some cool looking shit, but that's too much.
I feel like this is one of those things where one of those projects that kind of get away from you, where it's like, where you're like, oh, I can make this cool system that automatically generates it. Oh, it doesn't work for this game. Oh, well, I could put a little flag in it for this game so that it does it perfectly for this game. Okay, cool. And there's like, oh, it doesn't work for this game. Oh, well, I need to put 2 flags in for this game. Okay, I'll do one there, and then it has there. And then pretty soon you're like, what? I turned into a game programmer. I didn't actually intend to do that.
And traditionally, like a lot of emulators, especially for NES games, a lot of emulators have had to have that thing where they're like, okay, this cartridge came with specific MMC chips on board, which means that we have to implement those MMC chips in a certain way, but we also have to implement every part of them so they actually get emulated properly. So we need to understand what all these things are. So we're going to have to put flags into the emulator to say, emulate this in this way, because that's how the hardware is supposed to interpret it. It's never a high level emulation style. It's all very low level. That was kind of the traditional way to do it. Because otherwise you basically have to teach a computer how to perfectly emulate a piece of hardware and then interpret everything that comes out of ROMs and do that in the same way. And it's an incredible overload for even modern computers to have to do that kind of an interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, back in the day, especially on these old consoles, lots of games use all sorts of weird things and, rely on aspects of the console that were very questionably documented, shall we say, or were not official. It's like, this only works as long as, the console is plugged into, a 60 hertz power supply. If it's not on a 60 hertz power supply, then the clock goes at the wrong speed and everything fucks up.
It's a remarkable, like, this is a remarkable achievement, and he's put an awful lot of effort into it. I just, it's too much for me to kind of deal with.
Yeah, as RV Lestrat, it says, there are actually, there are a few transistor, like real emulators, as you would call, like, that are actually literally emulating the stuff involved. But I believe you need a very powerful computer to emulate like an NES, which is like 8 megahertz or 4 megahertz, I think.
I think we reported on an emulator that did that about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was just like, this thing's going to pin your CPU just to get accurate emulation. But there's another. One of the project's next major phases will be releasing the 3D Send Maker tool, so users can 3Dify games themselves. So that'll be interesting too, if this doesn't get yanked right off of Steam.
He's learning from the game from normal or from other game development companies. Make your users do the work, and call it a level editor. So I think that's all the news that
Yeah, it's 1:20. I think we should probably look at wrapping things up.
Although we will welcome subs, but first let's just let people know that tonight or this afternoon, LRMTG going to be playing some M21 drafts, I assume.
Yep, James will be in there for that.
And then
we're going to be an evening off of the Grim Dawn.
Yes.
And then tomorrow night, Friday Night Paper Fight, it's going to be some sealed M21.
Yeah, that'll be on Arena as well, eh?
Yeah.
And then Valorant on one more, which the folks seem to be really into that.
Yeah,
I've heard lots of very positive things about that.
Same.
So, good job, talking about the difficulty of breaking into some of these multiplayer genres that are already kind of sewn up. Good on Valorant. I mean, it helps when you have a ginormous company putting money into it, but I mean, Amazon's big too. The T is silent? Valorant? No, that doesn't make any sense.
It's not true.
You can't just make random letters silent. I mean, you can, but speaking of which, speaking of random silent letters, Animal Crossing New Horizon.
See, it does work.
Good. Got there.
On Kathleen's Island 2.
Oh, speaking of making letters silent, Kathleen's Island tour. The S is silent.
Island. There we go. I believe it's all community islands this week.
Ooh, the Oops All Community Edition.
Well, oops implies it was accidental, but we've for many weeks it's been like 2 guest islands, and then we've only had time for 1 community island. So I think this time it's all community islands.
I have literally never heard the term "oops all whatever" referred to an accidental thing.
True, that's true.
It is always intentional.
Yeah.
Despite what the words might imply. Rhythm Cafe.
I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Playing I don't know what
Distortions.
because it's not
according
me.
to this anyway.
Oh, nice, awesome.
I believe Ian said that they finished Runner 3 and on to Distortions.
Yeah, I guess there's still like crawling in Runner 3 to do for like a bunch of like achievements or whatever. But that's not going to be this coming stream. So,
yeah. Is the Oops All X from Crunchberries? Like
yes, Oops All Berries.
Oops All Berries. That's what that's from originally.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I've seen box art where it's actually been technically all berries, where it's things like avocados and stuff, and I'm like, that's good too.
Ding, a part of our heritage. And then on Monday, we have Dice Friends, which I don't know if we've actually announced this yet, but I'm going to say it anyway. I believe we are going back to the sand.
Rasp of Sand?
Rasp of Sand, yes. With Jer being our DM. And with Kathleen and Ian and Andy, I think.
And you will know that is correct when you see it show up for sure in the calendar.
Yes. And for those of you who didn't see that, you should check out the first episode. But the Rasp of Sand is kind of a roguelike RPG in the sense that the characters will most definitely die, and then go back through as their descendants.
Oh, cool!
Just kind of a neat thing. And then on Tuesday we're back to our standard Tuesday. We got Mine O'Clock, we got Talking Simulator, we got Let's Nope. All sorts of fun stuff coming up. loadingreadyrun.com/live is the place to go to see all the upcoming schedule as far as we know it. Sometimes it changes as we go. That's such is the way of things. But that's the best place to get all the most recent stuff. There's also a link to the calendar there. Now, let's welcome all the wonderful people who subscribe to the stream. Starting with the Nerd Wonder. Fine. You say it.
Did we talk over each other?
Well, now I feel bad. The Nerd Wonder for 30 months. Welcome back.
Okay, good. Thorniel for 14 months. Thank you very much.
You can tell you guys have been partners for like 18 goddamn years. Chronic Death for 14 months. Welcome back, Chronic.
As a side note, the different way that we're broadcasting means that we can talk over each other and it doesn't mute one of us. So that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah. 50 crates with a 19-month reset. Welcome back.
And that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if Lex Luthor stole 50 crates, it would be okay. It'd be like, he stole 50 crates, and that was kind of fine. We didn't care too much. Darth Rages for 28 months. Thank you very much.
Muon DK returns for 79 months. Woo. Way up there. It's a long decay.
Yeah. Muons take a while to decay, I guess.
I'm sorry. Bisaflau for 2 months. Welcome back.
Space Pop for 18 months. That would be an adorable TV show. Maybe it already exists. It's like the sequel to Puppy Patrol.
You can tell he doesn't have kids. Inkslayer for 51 months. Welcome back.
Wait, does Puppy Patrol already have a space part?
Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
Paw Patrol. What's
It allows them to get outside the dog thing if they want to. They could go on to having other animals because
there are cats in the show, but most of them are evil.
We did Inkslayer.
Forlorn Hope 22 for 49 months. Welcome back.
I like the idea that the creators of the show are just like, yeah, we're gonna move into space. We've just run out of stories to tell with these characters on land. You know, we felt that the character arcs of the Paw Patrol members are complete, and so now we need to move on to a new world.
We're gonna teach them to do drilling, and they're gonna harvest helium-3.
It's a crossover between Paw Patrol and The Expanse.
Yeah, Pawmageddon.
Whose turn is it?
Draw has for 11 months. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to that Paw Patrol movie. Oops, I did it again. I blew up the sun. I blew up the moon. Ooh, baby, baby. Oops, you think I'm a liar. I've got an evil empire. I'm not that innocent. Gifted by the Meerkat.
Those are the lyrics.
Yep.
Zafari Man for 41 months. Welcome back. Thank you.
And thank you for the 100 bits, Electrodyne. Yay. Thank you for your support, everybody, both here on Twitch and through our Patreon, patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, and on YouTube memberships, which, by the way, I know it's slightly late, but the Ask Lur for June we just recorded. So it will be available in the next little while. And
keep an eye, if you're a YouTube member, keep an eye out for the post. That was my phone. Post asking questions for the one for July.
Yes. And speaking of things that just became available, the new James Bond rewatch podcast with Graham and Matt going through all of the Bonds is now not only up on loadingreadyrun.com and on YouTube, but it should also be in Spotify and iTunes and all the places that you normally get your podcasts. So you can check that out. Although, as somebody I saw in the YouTube channel pointed out, while the podcast is very entertaining as an audio only version, you do miss the very swanky intro. So maybe watch the
That's
very cool intro on YouTube and then listen to it.
There's also
go ahead.
Oh, is this Matt Wiggins is the one I'm doing the podcast with, but Matt Griffiths has been doing great work at doing the video versions with a whole bunch of still frames from the movies, so that you get to actually see what we're talking about in a way that doesn't get copyright claimed.
Nice.
It's
Graham
and two Matts.
Yes. And also, like all of the content we create, it's a podcast. It's not a fucking Wikipedia article. If we don't talk about something, it's probably due to time. It's not due to the fact that we don't know about it. So please calm down.
Can we do a podcast that's just called "It's Actually a Fucking Wikipedia Article," and where we just read Wikipedia articles?
We recorded episode 5 on Tuesday, which was the first episode we've recorded since the first episode went up. And my only request in it was that, like, if you have additional pieces of trivia, because there's so much, if you have additional pieces of trivia to share, that's great. Please do that. Just don't preface it with, here's something you missed. Because it implies that I don't know and chose not, or like accidentally forgot to tell you about or something, which is, let me tell you, not the case.
Yeah. That kind of goes for everything we do on the channel here, which you can also help support. We already talked about YouTube memberships and Twitch subs, but you can also help support at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. I didn't see the Patreon thing up in chat, so I just assumed we hadn't mentioned it yet.
Yeah, for some, it appears that perhaps there are some subs that did not get into the thing.
How peculiar.
Because,
It's not Lirazel. It's not chat who I want to calm down. It's other parts of the internet.
Barrington Stab with a 26-month resub right there.
Yeah, but actually just in the... Did we do...
Oh, is Lurbot seeing some that didn't pop up on your thing?
Yeah, somehow.
Oh, AKA Hailing for 38 months. I saw Zafari Man, but
yeah, I heard that.
I certainly didn't see Butt Plug Collector 69. Thanks, Maricat.
Oh, such a problem that we missed that.
Maricat, your name is married to this shit forever. You realize that, right? Like every time you put one of these in, it's going to be that person and your name.
Sam's Skunkworks, I don't think was there before.
Ghost of a Coffee Cup, Space Pup, Val the Drake, Alchemist Merlin, Scandir, a brand new sub. Welcome to the channel. I didn't see any of those.
Yeah, Zora Lundra I didn't see come up before. That's weird how that...
Yeah, I wonder why I missed those. Anyway, we should... Crumbler 64 also. Darth Regis we did. Sam Wonk, Muon Decay, Cassie 13, Bizaflau.
It's missing every other one.
Is it?
Interesting.
Yeah, Ghost of a Copy we didn't do, but we did do Space Pup. The next one we didn't do. Val the Drake. The next one we did do. Inkslayer. Yeah, that's what's happening. Alchemist Merlin.
Lurbot's having a cranky pants kind of day.
Apparently so. He doesn't like odd or even numbers.
Whichever we're at.
Scandir. It's a new subscriber. Welcome. Trahas. Buttplug Collector 69. Oops, I did it again. AKA Hailing. Safari Man. Barrington Stab. And once again, thank you for the 100 bits, Electrodyne. Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what happened there. But I blame the internet just as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Anyway.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We will talk to you later. But for now, we got LRMTG in about 25 minutes. But in the meantime, bye.
Bye.
Bye.